Next on Unsolved Mysteries, a man faces execution for a murderous rampage that left 4 people dead. But he claims that he was wrongly convicted. At the Comedy Store in Hollywood, the price of admission can get you laughs from the performers and chills from the ghosts. Meet a mother and daughter fortune-telling team. They have stolen more than $100,000 from unsuspecting victims. During World War II, a kind-hearted GI brings joy to a destitute family. And now, they'd like to say thank you. These are stories with intriguing secrets and surprising revelations. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries. For convicted murderers on death row in Florida, only a few steps separate their cells from the electric chair. It sits ready to exact the ultimate price for the ultimate crime. And unless convicted killer Tommy Zeigler wins his appeal, he will make that short walk to the electric chair himself.
I did not kill Eunice, I did not kill Mr. and Ms. Edwards, and I did not kill Charlie Mays. I have not killed anybody.
Winter Garden, Florida. Tommy Zeigler was wealthy and well-known. His family owned Zeigler's furniture stores and several apartment buildings in town. Zeigler was married, attended church, and was friendly with the mayor and the chief of police. However, according to prosecutors, all of this wasn't enough for Tommy Zeigler. They claimed that he murdered his wife Eunice in his furniture store on Christmas Eve. His motive, to cash in on a life insurance policy worth $500,000.
My marriage was very good. Eunice and I loved each other greatly. I couldn't kill her. There's just no way I could kill her. I loved her. She was my life. That was just all there was to it.
The prosecutors say Zeigler didn't stop there. He then killed Eunice's parents, Perry and Virginia Edwards, who were also in the store that night. They say Zeigler had prearranged to have a customer named Charlie Mays stop by to pick up a television set. Zeigler's plan was to kill Mays and then frame Mays for robbing the store and murdering Eunice and her parents. Mays would later be found dead, with store receipts and cash stuffed in his pockets. Supposedly, Zeigler ended the bloodbath by shooting himself in the side, making sure that he also looked like a victim. Zeigler was still in the hospital when he was charged with all 4 killings. Soon after, he was convicted and condemned to death.
I think that Tommy Zeigler will ultimately die for killing those 4 people, and I believe he is the right man to die for it, and I believe that he will deserve it.
Tommy Zeigler disagrees. He tells a different story. He says that he planned to meet Eunice and her parents at the store that night, and he claims that he didn't know that they were already dead when he opened the door and found the lights not working.
I walked from there into the main showroom, through the door, and I was hit in the back of the head. As I was getting up, there were 2 blurs coming at me. One was a shorter, stocky man, one was a big, burly man. I was just being bounced around, glass was breaking, things were being knocked over and knocked down. I was thrown back into the hallway.
Zeigler kept a lot of money at the store and always carried a handgun for protection. He believes that he may have wounded one of the assailants. And then he himself was shot in the side. Before filming this segment, we insisted that Tommy Zeigler take a lie detector test with one of the country's most respected polygraph experts.
After talking to Tommy Zeigler for the period of time that I did and assessing all of the other information that I had, it was my professional opinion that Tommy Zeigler was telling the truth.
Even though the lie detector suggests that Zeigler is innocent, prosecutors believe that a number of clues suggest that he is, in fact, the killer.
Is anyone here?
First, there's the position of Eunice's body. Her oddly unruffled pose suggested to police that she knew her killer.
I think it's very unlikely that any unknown assailant could get in a position where they could surprise Eunice Zeigler in that kind of circumstance and shoot her in the back of the head and catch her in that way.
Secondly, there was the blood found on Zeigler's shirt. It was type A, which was his father-in-law's blood type, and type O, which was his blood type.
His story didn't account for that as to how he got someone else's blood on his shirt. The blood type matched Perry Edwards.
During the course of his struggle in the store when Tommy first came in, he was in a fight with a couple of people. One of those people he had a struggle with and was hitting him with a gun. It would have caused bleeding, and it could have caused the blood there.
5 handguns were also found at the crime scene. 4 had been wiped clean of fingerprints. 2 of the guns were inexpensive Saturday night specials made by a company named RG.
Of the 5 guns found in the store, 3 of them were documented as belonging to Tommy Zeigler. The other 2 that were there, which was the cheaper guns, were not registered to him, but they were connected to him through another witness.
I bought good, high-quality guns when I bought guns, and I had good, high-quality guns. From what I understand and from what I saw at trial, those RGs are garbage.
State your name, please.
Felton Thomas.
One of the key witnesses for the state was a man named Felton Thomas, a friend of victim Charlie Mays. Zeigler said Thomas's version of what happened that night was a lie from start to finish. Thomas testified that on the night of the murders, he went to Zeigler's store with Charlie Mays.
Charlie, sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's all right. Hey, this is Felton Thomas. He come to help me get the TV set.
Listen, the guy with the keys isn't here yet, but while we're waiting for him, why don't we take a ride? I got something I want to show you.
Thomas told the court that Zeigler took them to a nearby orange grove to show off some new guns.
Smooth, clean action.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna step out and fire off a couple.
No. Not here. Just do it from the window.
Prosecutors charged that Zeigler's plan was to expose Thomas and Mays to gunshot residue and cover the weapons with their fingerprints.
If in fact that was his purpose for doing that, so that he could set up Charlie Mays and Felton Thomas and have their prints on the guns, why were all of the guns wiped clean?
What happened later at the store?
Mace told Zeigler.
Thomas testified that once they got back to the store, Zeigler asked him to turn off the power and then burglarize the store.
All right, come over the fence. No, I'm not. Come on. Okay, Charlie. Pick yourself up a piece of pipe and help us out.
Prosecutors said that it was all part of Zeigler's plan to make the killings look like they happened during a robbery.
Maybe I got an extra key back home. Why don't we go and pick it up?
Thomas also told the court that they next drove to Zeigler's house for the key, and then they went back to the store.
At that time...
Felton, you gonna come in and help us with the TV?
Thomas said Mays and Zeigler went inside and he left. Prosecutors say that once inside the store, Zeigler killed Mays. The defense completely dismissed Thomas's account. To begin with, they claimed his entire scenario would have had to happen in less than 21 minutes.
Get out, it gets about.
Felton Thomas is a joke. I have no idea why Felton Thomas would make up a story like that. I had never laid eyes on him until he walked in that courtroom to testify against me.
Next, we'll hear from a close friend of the Zeigler family who testified against Tommy Zeigler in court. Tommy Zeigler stood accused of killing his wife, her parents, and another man in his family's furniture store on Christmas Eve. He insisted that he was innocent, but the testimony of a key witness for the prosecution makes his claim hard to believe.
I know Tommy Zeigler.
Ed Williams had known and worked for the Zeigler family for 10 years. Williams testified that on the night of the murder, Zeigler gave him a handgun. Later that same night, Williams turned the weapon over to authorities. They confirmed that the bullets from that gun killed Perry and Virginia Edwards.
Edward Williams, in the last 20 years, as far as we know, has been an upstanding citizen, hasn't done anything wrong, and there's no reason not to believe Edward Williams.
However, Zeigler testified that the gun was stolen from his truck 2 weeks before the murders and that Ed Williams had easy access to his car. Another witness also tied Williams to the gun that killed Eunice Zeigler. He testified that he bought the two guns, Saturday night specials, for Zeigler, but gave them to Ed Williams, not Tommy Zeigler.
Edward Williams is, in fact, the one that purchased the two Saturday night specials that did the killing. And the only person that was found with a murder weapon on him was Edward Williams.
The defense claims that there were two witnesses that verified Zeigler's story who were never called to testify.
A husband and wife reported to the sheriff's department that they had been driving by the Zeigler furniture store on the night of the crime, and that they had seen 4 cars, not 2 as the state had contended, outside the furniture store, including a white Cadillac, all of which is completely inconsistent with the state's version of events. In addition, they saw a man who generally fit the description of Charlie Mays, who we believe was one of the perpetrators, and none of that was reported to the court, none of it was presented to the jury, and none of it was reported to the trial lawyers for Mr. Zeigler.
Any witness who comes by and claims to be an eye or ear witness at the time of a murder is going to be interviewed, a statement's going to be taken. So I think their claim that they went by the police department to talk about the case is not very credible.
Zeigler's trial lasted for 4 weeks and filled nearly 3,000 pages of transcripts. In the end, the jury voted to convict. They recommended that he be sentenced to life in prison. But they were about to be overruled by Judge Maurice Paul.
It is the sentence of the law and the judgment of this court that you, William Thomas Zeigler, Jr., shall be put to death by means of electrocution.
Nobody in their right mind that can look at that trial transcript can say that there was a fair trial in Zeigler versus State. It was a railroad from day one, and Judge Paul orchestrated the whole thing.
Zeigler believes that Judge Paul had held a grudge against him ever since they testified for opposing sides in a bitter legal dispute.
Within months thereafter, Tommy Zeigler was standing at the defendant's table accused of murder, and Judge Paul was sitting on the bench making decisions that would affect his life.
Judge Maurice Paul was a very respected member of the judiciary of Orange County, and his reputation and ethics have never been subject to question. No one has even ever alleged he is anything other than an honest man.
After 11 years on death row, Zeigler was 24 hours away from the electric chair when he was granted a stay of execution. Previously undisclosed evidence had been located. You're about to hear parts of a tape-recorded conversation between a prosecution investigator and a witness. The witness was staying at this motel on the night of the murders. His room faced the back of Zeigler's store. The man said that at around 8:30 p.m., he saw a policeman with a gun in his hand crouched behind the store. At around 9 p.m., he heard shots.
Heard what we figured were probably shots.
This is obviously significant because if it was at 9 o'clock, this was 20 minutes at least before the time Tommy called for help. It would mean that Tommy would have been in the store at this time, and if there was a policeman outside with his gun drawn and there were shots going off, then the police had to have been involved.
It appears to have shots being fired after the police arrive, which clearly couldn't be related to the murder. Maybe some sound that sounded like a gunshot. So the information itself is meaningless.
Was there a police officer involved? Well, we may never know. But the prosecution did not inform Zeigler's attorneys about the witness or his story, and they did not ask him to testify at the trial.
As long as you heard the gunshots after, you saw the police cars, then that wouldn't help us a bit.
Tommy Zeigler has appealed his verdict 8 times, but has never produced enough evidence to clear his name. He has lost all 8 appeals and remains on Florida's death row awaiting execution. He still maintains his innocence. If you have any information about this case, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, could Hollywood's famous nightclub, the Comedy Store, be a meeting place for visitors from beyond the grave? For years, the Comedy Store on Hollywood's Sunset Strip has played host to legendary comedians like Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and Arsenio Hall.
Is this it right here? No, that's Don King. Okay, where's the one I'm supposed to find?
Each got their big break on this stage, but some say that the best part of the show takes place when the crowd goes home and there's hardly a living soul around. Many employees, past and present, say that the Comedy Store's halls are haunted. Author Lori Jacobson, who once worked here as a waitress, has collected these stories for a book that she was writing.
This place is haunted from the basement to the rafters. When I was a waitress here, the waitresses would have to set up the showroom by putting tablecloths on the table, and we would put an ashtray on every table. And on occasion, girls would set up the room, leave for a moment, come back, and everything would be put back. And we all knew exactly what we were dealing with here.
Dave!
That what was happening in those rooms, being set and unset, was being done by ghosts.
When he was just starting out, Joey Gaynor worked as a doorman at the club. Most nights, he was the last one to leave the building, or so he thought.
One night, I was going to shut the lights in the building. Takes 5 seconds, tops. Walk back out, chairs, all these chairs are just piled in the middle of the aisle. I never heard anything. Nobody could have come in and done that in 5 seconds. Even if it had been 10 seconds. If you compile 8, 10 chairs in that amount of time, you should be in Vegas, because that's pretty amazing.
Born and raised in Georgia, and I fought in Vietnam. That's like being punished for the same thing twice.
Like Joey Gaynor, comedian Blake Clark says that he's been the target of the club's ghostly pranksters. He claims that one night a stool mysteriously glided across the stage.
I was a person who did not believe in ghosts. Absolutely, unequivocally, undeniably did not believe in any sort of paranormal manifestation. Until I started working here.
When Blake realized that he was the only one in the building, he knew that a supernatural force was responsible, and that made him a believer.
I was always skeptical because we're talking about comedians telling stories.
It didn't take Michael Becker very long to be convinced that the club was indeed haunted.
Yeah, hi, it's Mike Becker. As I was standing there, I saw someone with a kind of a tweed 40s jacket just walk right into my office.
Get that guy in my office. Can you hold it, please? Thanks. Who's that guy?
What guy?
The guy that just came in here.
There was nobody there except the guy that was on the phone originally. Nobody came in here.
Nobody.
And to top it off, the guy that was on the phone didn't see anything. It was not a guy, but it was something that walked in my office.
That something has been prowling the club for decades, or so they say. Long before the Comedy Store moved in, this place was home to the nightclub Zeros, a hangout for movie stars like Tyrone Power, Betty Davis, and Lucille Ball.
Ciro's was the most popular nightclub in Hollywood. And when a club is that popular, the mob is often involved.
Mickey Cohen was the most notorious of the club's mob regulars. It's been said that more than a few unfortunate souls who made him mad ended up as ghosts.
It kind of all fits together that something happened back in the 40s, perhaps, because it's never like a hippie-looking guy, or it's never somebody from the 80s or anything like that. The clothing is always 40s.
Once you rule out all the prosaic, logical explanations, such as the hoax, the fraud, misinterpretation of natural events, seismic, transients, electrical transients, you're left with something that is totally inexplicable in terms of modern science.
Modern science would have a hard time explaining what Blake Clark claimed he and a co-worker saw late at night.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
You look back and I saw the gate, and it just started bending out into the hallway. And making that kind of noise. And as I was looking at it, I thought, this is certainly approaching the boundary of physical possibility that something can do that.
Most of the ghosts at the Comedy Store are not dangerous at all. But there is something in the basement. And you'll have a hard time convincing people to go down there, at least alone.
It was a challenge that Joey Gaynor and Blake Clark could not resist. Late one night, they visited the forbidden basement.
What do you want? What do you want? It had no features at all. It just moved, and it started to snake upwards and down towards us.
Spirit, demon, whatever was down there in that basement, I just don't like it.
Rumor has it that no one has raced out of that basement faster than those two did that night.
Some might say it would be foolish to take ghost stories at face value, especially those told by comedians. But if these accounts are true, it suggests that not everything that happens at the Comedy Store is a laughing matter.
Coming up, a convincing pair of fortune tellers uses oils, curses, and lots of money to scam innocent people. Peoria, Illinois. A respected teacher, who we'll call Karen, was mentally and physically injured in a car accident. Her friends encouraged her to see Ann Coricelli, a fortune teller who supposedly had psychic powers.
The last thought of my mind was to go see a psychic. But I thought, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's $10 for a half an hour. What have I got to lose?
I see that you've had family problems lately. Have you considered suicide before?
She told me that I had had suicidal thoughts, and I hadn't ever told anyone. So I was convinced that she was psychic, and she had the answer to my problem.
This is a curse that someone's put on you.
And I looked at her like, you have got to be kidding. But she said it so believably. And she held my hand and she leaned forward and said, we can do something about this.
I'll help you, and we can overcome this together.
At the point she told me there was a curse on me, I think I would have been ready to believe anything.
Ann told Karen that she had to follow a strict plan in order to remove the curse.
I was taking ritual baths and scented oils. I was blessing the doors, the windows, the cars, people with holy water. But I couldn't let anyone know what was going on. Each time that I saw her, she gave me more things to do, which was great. I loved it. I felt like I was beginning to get control back of my life.
Anne instructed Karen to come with her to a nearby bridge and to bring $4,000 wrapped in a white handkerchief.
I brought the money. This money has taken all the evil from your body.
She told me that we had to destroy the money because Satan was of the earth, and what better way to control him but with his own dirty money. So we took the bundle of money and threw it off the bridge.
Is it gone? It's gone. It's gone.
The money that was in the bundle had been wrapped in a handkerchief, and she had refolded it several times before it was ever thrown into the river. I never saw the actual $4,000. I had my eyes closed in prayer.
Karen now believes that she was conned by Ann Coricelli, who often worked with her mother, Lena Marie Wilson, in bogus fortune-telling schemes.
I look at myself and I say, how could I be so stupid? I'm a college-educated person. I'm a professional. I've seen enough news reports. I've lived in the world long enough to know what real crime is, and that people at any opportunity are very willing to steal your money. And I cannot believe that I was a victim of this crime.
Another victim of the fortune-telling scam in Peoria was a 69-year-old woman we'll call Joan. After her second husband died, she was left with a sizable estate.
I think at the time I was very vulnerable because I had lost my husband 2 years before. I was lonely. I was searching, maybe for answers in different places.
When Joan visited the fortune tellers, they were using the name Calvin. The first person she met was Ann Coricelli.
I can tell that you've had a recent spiritual crisis in your life. I can also tell that you have a recent death in the family.
Well, yes, my husband 2 years ago.
Okay. I can also see that there's something evil in your charts. Something that I am going to have to ask my grandmother to help us with.
Ann left the room and brought in her partner and mother, Lena Marie, to help with the con.
You need help?
Yes.
You have the power to rebuild your problems. Take this thread and tie 3 knots.
3 knots?
Yes.
She told me that my life had had a curse on it for over 40 years. That was put on by a girlfriend of my first husband. And she actually named the person that my husband went with before he married me. She said, will you come back and bring with you a $1, $5, $10, and a $20 bill?
Did you bring the money with you?
Yes, just as you asked me.
Lena Marie also asked her to bring a sheet, which she tied around both of their necks.
She told me to tear these bills in half. And she said, if this money will go back together and become whole, then I can help you, otherwise I can't. And then she wrapped them up in the white handkerchief and tied it all together.
Our Father, who art in heaven.
Lena Marie held the torn money under the sheet and rubbed it over Joan's arms and legs.
Do you believe I have the power?
Yes, I do.
When Lena Marie unwrapped the money, the bills appeared to be magically restored. They had even multiplied. And to Joan, this was a miracle.
I can't believe it.
She said, kneel down and thank God. And so I knelt down before the altar and kept saying over the Our Father.
If you tell anybody, the curse will be back on you. Do you understand?
Oh, yes, I understand.
Do you believe?
They always associate their special powers with God or religion or the church. And more importantly, with this particular type of trick, with making the money multiply, is to get in the victim's mind that money means nothing. The next step is to convince the victim that they are cursed.
She said, we've got to get rid of this devil. It is in your life and it is all around you. And she said she had to have money because this would give her more power. And the more money I could give her, the more power she would have to help me.
For the next year and a half, Joan gave Lena Marie more than $80,000 in cash and most of her jewelry. She even bought her a new Cadillac.
Well, this money will help to take the evil out of your body. Money is evil.
Marie had the type of personality that made you feel that she was helping you. And I believed in her.
Finally, Lena Marie asked Joan to give her the last of her life savings, $40,000.
We have to burn this evil.
She said, now we have to burn this money because money is evil. She put it in a garbage can and then put lighter fluid on it and burned it.
The money that the individual thinks is going into the fire does not actually go into the fire.
Kneel down and pray.
There might be a $1 bill or a $100 bill wrapped around play money. And this is what actually goes into the fire and is actually burnt. Real money never goes into the fire.
Did you see this?
The crime that they're committing is they're taking valuables from people by the means of deception. But the majority of the people would just as soon cut their losses and not come forward. They do not want to suffer the embarrassment of the community, of their peers, of their family.
I gave her close to $150,000 in money, possessions, and jewelry.
Based on the testimony of Karen, Joan, and 16 other victims, authorities arrested Lena Marie Wilson. Soon after, she jumped bail. Update. 10 years after Lena Marie Wilson disappeared, she was arrested at her home in a Boston suburb. Wilson served time for conspiracy to commit fraud and for bail jumping. She has since been released. The statute of limitations has run out on this case. Investigators are no longer looking for Ann Corricelli. Coming up, a nurse's aide disappears and the only clues are mysterious letters left in shopping malls. One September morning in the small town of St. Joseph, Missouri, a young woman named Mickey Jo West left for work. She was never seen again.
I think I know what happened to Mickey. I think I know who did it. And I think I know why they did it.
We have a suspect that we established the day after the disappearance. We've talked to him several times. We know where he lives now. We know where we can reach him. We just simply have no evidence against him at this point.
At the time of her disappearance, Mickey Jo West was just 19 years old. She was a friendly girl who worked as a nurse's aide at a local hospital.
She was funny when I had bad days. I was at my worst end. She'd come in and everything would be all right because she'd say something funny.
Shortly before she disappeared, Mickey became involved in a friend's bitter marital dispute, perhaps too involved. She began to receive threats.
The last time I talked to Mickey on the phone, she was afraid for her life, so she told me she was going to carry a hammer to work with her. That next morning, she got up and left her house and was on her way to the bus stop, and that was the last that anyone ever heard from her.
At this point, the only case we have is a missing person. We have no crime, we have a missing person. We have no body to establish a murder case. We have evidence that there were threats made to Mickey, that she was followed by this person, that he had a motive to do this, that he could have done this, and we just need the body.
For 7 years, no new evidence was found. And then, a delivery man at a Kansas City shopping mall found a letter. It was addressed to the St. Joseph Police. It read, quote, "I need your help. I was with," and here we cannot mention that person's name, "when he killed Mickey Jo West and hid the body. I can kill myself now. Please help. The letter was unsigned.
There was a note found at the Oak Park Mall in Overland Park, Kansas. That was the exact date of the anniversary of the disappearance of Mickey Joe.
The following month, a security guard found another note in the same shopping mall.
Both of the notes named the man who has been and is now the prime suspect. The author in these notes said that he was with the person who had killed her, that he did not kill her himself, that he could not stand this knowledge that he had, and that he needed help. They're both unsigned, and so far we have not come up with any solid leads as to who the author is.
7 weeks later, 3 more letters were found, this time in St. Joseph, the town where Mickey was last seen. 2 were found in a local mall, and 1 at a nearby truck stop. All 5 notes were believed to be written by the same person, but the police did not have enough evidence to arrest the suspect that was named in the letters.
We've explored the possibility that the notes are a hoax, but we believe they're genuine because of the details that he's given us about the crime, because of the way they're written, because of the feelings that they express. They just seem realistic.
When we examined these letters, it was obvious to us that the person who wrote them was intimidated by the person who killed Mickey Joe. These weren't letters written by a stranger. They were written by someone who was personally acquainted with the victim. There are deep-seated feelings of guilt, not guilt because the writer was personally responsible for having killed Mickey, but because he was present when it happened and wasn't able to stop it.
9 years after Mickey's disappearance, a television reporter named Thurman Mitchell received a letter addressed to him personally.
In this letter, the author said that if Thurman would come alone, he would show him where Mickey Joe West is. He said that he did not want the reward. He said that he was not himself involved in the crime, but that he needed help again.
Because this latest letter was mailed to the station,
in response to this letter that Mr. Mitchell received, he did a news story asking this person to come forward and contact him personally.
About Mickey Joe's death. We're asking that witness to call the telephone number on the screen and talk to us, and we'll pass that information on.
Mitchell's on-air request produced no new leads.
If he knows where she is, if he was there, the author of these notes is the most important witness that we could have in this case.
We miss Mickey, and it's been 9 years. And we just want to know what happened to her.
Update. St. Joseph police eventually arrested Marvin Lee Irvin for the murder of Mickey Joe West. It was Irvin who was named in the anonymous letters, and the police now believe that he wrote those letters himself. The discovery of 2 other bodies and a search of Irvin's home provided the evidence needed to make the arrest.
Irvin confessed and pled guilty to murdering Mickey Joe West and 2 other women. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Mickey Joe's body, however, has never been found.
We recently told you a story that began over 60 years ago in war-torn Eastern Europe. When Hitler's Third Reich crumbled, Karl Dente and his family fled their home in Budapest, Hungary, and traveled to Austria. As winter approached, the family was forced to live in a boxcar. Life was extremely hard for Karl's 5-year-old daughter, Brigitte. But all that changed a few days before Christmas. An American GI known only as Phillip asked if he could take Brigitte to a children's Christmas party.
Yes, 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 Christmas, great. Yes.
Even though more than 60 years have passed, Brigitte still remembers that night as if it were just yesterday.
Phillip made me feel very, very special. Instead of making me feel safe and happy, he made me feel like a big girl. Well, I felt like a princess. It's like someone opened a magic door.
Over the next few months, Phillip and the Dentes developed a close friendship. Then one day, Phillip came to the camp with news. His unit was being sent back to the United States. He gave Carl a photograph to remember him by. The Dentes never saw Phillip again, but they never forgot the kindness that he brought their family on that Christmas day so many years ago.
It brought a big change in our life, a little happiness, give us back a lot of confidence of the human race.
More than a decade later, the Dentes finally made it to America. For 30 years, Carl and Brigitte searched for Phillip. Their only clue was the photograph he had given them. Update. Within an hour after we aired this story, a viewer recognized the GI. Phillip was her cousin, Philip Pelletier, and he lived in Hammond, Indiana. We immediately called Carl and Brigitte and arranged a reunion.
Bridget?
Yep, Phillip?
Oh, yes. Oh, I can't believe it.
Well, it's really pretty hard to tell you just how I feel after so many years, and trying to recollect everything that we went through together, it's very hard. It's very exciting. It's almost unbelievable.
The minute that I saw him, I could see the warmth and the happy look on his face, smiling, like we really never had lost touch in a way.
Carl, Brigitte, and Phillip spent the entire day looking through photographs that brought back memories of that special time they spent together so many years ago.
We're gonna stay with touch. We're gonna try to visit each other as much as possible. We're gonna renew the friendship what we had before. It's a friendship forever.